Shawn, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. I'm guessing we have quite a bit in common. But when it comes to construction, I'm always looking to learn. Like, I feel like obviously I've been doing it a while. You've been doing it longer than I have. And I'm always looking to learn from people, even if they haven't been doing it long, because there's always something to learn in this industry, I find.
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there, and from experience from old veterans. I don't know if that I'm necessarily one of those. You probably have more building experience than I do in a shorter amount of time, but there's always something to learn, even from new people, because they bring new perspectives. So yeah, great to have a conversation with you and see where this goes.
Yeah. Well, let's start a little bit at the beginning. I guess you're now your main business is really helping contractors, right? If
Right.
summarize it
Yeah.
really
So I'm
quickly.
a business coach, which a lot of people say, okay, well, great. What does that mean? So I coach construction business owners. I only work with construction business owners and people in the trades. And the nutshell is we work with them to help streamline their businesses, make them more profitable. And for a lot of contractors out there, we just try to give them their lives back. So they started these businesses for whatever reason. And most of the time they'd start it because they think like, hey, I want to make some money and money will buy me some freedom, or I'm passionate about what I do, and for whatever reason. And then they go out and start this business, and then they get really busy because people need really good contractors out there. And then 3 years, 5 years, 7 years down the road, they're like, this is not the thing that I wanted. Like, I enjoyed the building side of it, but now I have this business and it's chaotic, and I didn't get in. No one starts a construction business because they say, man, I cannot wait to do a bunch of paperwork. But it's the business side produces a lot of paperwork. And so we work specifically with contractors. It's not sexy, but like just streamlining their businesses, putting systems in place, teaching them the business side of the construction business. And yeah, so that's what we do. That's what I do now. And I also write books for the construction industry. And back when live speaking was a thing, I used to travel around and speak at industry events. And now, I think everybody's trying to figure out what live speaking really is now, virtual and Zoom and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's it. Working with contractors, writing books, and speaking.
Yeah, I want to come back to, how do you give contractors their lives back? But first, what's your background? How did you get into this?
So way back when, this is in 97, I graduated with my first degree in engineering. So I got a degree in civil engineering, went out into the world and did the engineering thing. So for those that may not be familiar, civil engineering was site prep and water and storm and all of this, all of that boring kind of stuff to get the site ready for the fun stuff of construction. So I did that. And then I pursued a master's degree in structural engineering because I wanted to actually get more into literally the nuts and bolts of building. So I got a master's degree in structural engineering. And just about the time I finished up my master's degree, I realized like, oh, I don't really know how to build anything. I want to get more on the construction side. And I make fun of engineers because I used to be one. And so then I went and got a job as on a project management team for a large commercial contractor, and did project management and for commercial contracting. That job led to working for some architects that were doing site development for a real estate developer. I eventually ended up working for that real estate developer as a construction manager. So I traveled around the Midwest and the Southeast here in the United States building commercial projects. So big box retail shops with exterior shops and outlots and the whole nine yards. And that was a lot of fun because I was out in the field doing construction work as a construction manager. Now I didn't have the tools on, but I was managing the general contractors and as an owner's rep and as a construction manager. But when I was in the office, I was also doing like the engineering site development, working with the developers to figure out how many how many square feet of retail can we pack into these 20 acres or whatever. And so it
Which
was
is
really
now
a
also
great fit.
changed.
What's that?
Which is now also changed.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, this is a long time ago. But that's what was kind of my background, was engineering to construction to real estate development. And then in 2005, I got this crazy idea. Hey, I'll quit my job and I'll start my own real estate development and construction management company. So I started my first business in 2005. And part of that was by this time I was married. We had a second kid on the way. We've got 5 now. So, but at the time my wife was like, hey, glad you enjoy your job, but this traveling around the United States 3 or 4 days a week is not going to work out so well for you being a dad. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I quit that job and basically did construction management and real estate development in my local area, and did that for a while. And then in 2008, when the economy crashed the first time, I made a shift and started a remodeling company. I by then had my general contractor's license. And so I did remodeling for several years. And through there, I was not a tools on contractor, although I wore my tools plenty. But like if I had my tools on, then something meant there was something drastically wrong. An actual professional carpenter was not available. And so they got me. And through that, running that construction business, the remodeling business, I built up a great base of subcontractors. One of those subcontractors was my trim and millwork subcontractor. We went to church together, young guy, had been friends for a long time. And then his business really started to take off. He landed some very high-end trim projects with big custom builders in our area. And he was pretty typical, and I've told the story a lot before, but he's pretty typical tradesperson that is excellent at their craft, horrible at the business, but he was smart enough to know, like, I'm not good at the business. I don't want to be good at the business. I want somebody to come in and be good at the business. And so he took me out to lunch to ask me some business stuff. That's what I thought it was anyway. Turns out it was an interview. But he said, hey, I got this crazy idea. I think I'm going to hire somebody to come in and run my business. What do you think about that? And I said, I think it's a great idea because, and again, at this time I had my business, he had his, and he was my subcontractor. I said, yeah, you suck at running a business. Like your invoices are never correct. Your paperwork's a mess. Your schedule's all out of whack. When I do get you and your guys on site, like it's beautiful. Like I don't have to, my stress level goes way down when you guys are on site. But from the business side of it, you absolutely should get somebody in to run the business because you suck at it. And he said, good. I'm glad you feel that way. Why don't you do it? And I was like, I don't want to do it. I've got my own thing going. And then he's a really, really good salesman. And he said, listen, Shawn, and again, we were friends. He said, listen, it's going to take you 20 years to get to the level of projects that we're doing. And he was right. He had landed some very high-end work for very high-end custom stuff. And at the time he had about 5 or 6 guys. And he said, this high-end work that we've got our hands on is going to take you 20 years to get to that level. And if I don't get somebody to run the business, it's going to put me out of business within a year because I don't know how to handle the business side and coordinate all of this. And so first of all, it was like, he kind of was like jabbing me a little bit, like, this is your best opportunity. And then also kind of saying like, hey, friend, please help me. I don't trust anybody else to run the business. And so I thought I was calling his bluff. I said, okay, the only way that I'll do this is that you go run the field and I run the business. Like there's no middle ground here. You're run the field. I got the business. And he said, deal. And he literally pulled out a folder with all of the business. Again, and I'll describe this, and a lot of contractors know what that folder that just has random receipts and maybe a contract from 2 years ago and some sketches or whatever. He slid it across the table at the restaurant and said, here's the business. It's all yours. Let's go do this thing. And so went and talked to my wife and I said, this is crazy. This is probably a really bad idea. But he's right in the fact that like he's already got the projects and at that level, at those type of projects. And I'd be really interested to seeing what we could do together. And it was, so from there, it was absolute chaos for about 2 years straight. But at the time that I joined, we had 6 guys. Within 18 months, we had 22 guys, and the business was in debt, not making money, and we had gotten it out of debt, making money. And then so I was the COO for that trim and millwork company for about 4 years. And then that's kind of when I realized like, oh, hey, these systems that I had from my business and worked for his business. And, you meet we all talk shop, other business owners, and trying to help each other out. It seemed like I would get a lot of calls from other contractors and other sub contractors and I'd help them out with a business. And so I said, wait a minute, if I could do this for this one business and my business, and I'm helping these other people out, maybe there's an opportunity to go expand on this. And I'm an engineer at heart. I'm a systems guy, nerd for numbers and spreadsheets. Like I know where my value is. And I thought, I know that for a lot of construction business owners, this is where they're weakest at. And so if I can show them what I've developed and kind of boil it down to some nuts and bolts stuff, I think that there's an opportunity to help some people. So again, as I'd done before, quit that job and said, hey, honey, I'm going to go and try this thing. And by this point we had 4 kids. And so she was kind of like, yeah, whatever. I'd quit my job and started other businesses before. So launched what I'm doing now, reaching out to contractors saying, hey, I got some systems. I think I can help you. And here we are 4 years later.
Yeah, it's funny that you're an engineer and a system guy, because what I ended up doing is I brought on one of my brothers. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, but one of them is an engineer. And I said, hey, I need some help. I need systems. Like I'm just not, that's not the way I think. I'm like visionary. I'm like kind of up here. I'm just like, I'm always thinking like future oriented. I can do it. I just don't enjoy it. Right. I can do spreadsheets and I know how to do them all. I procrastinate and I know I just don't like doing it. Right. So I'm like, I need your help. And he's come on, he's been helping us. And that's exactly what we've been doing. So what do you do to get contractors their lives back? Is obviously it has something to do with the systems, but let's boil this down. Say you were working with a small renovation company, right? So they're doing renovations. Maybe they're doing custom homes. They have a few guys. Things are a mess, like you say. How do you work with them? How do you work with that owner to get their business to the next level?
So one of the foundational systems that we put in place for any business owner, and it doesn't matter whether they're a small company or a large company, is we say you as the business owner, the most valuable thing that you have is your time. So let's work out what your schedule needs to be every single week. Like this is the way we're going to default. And that when people have existed for so long, just responding to chaotic environments and just reacting to the day-to-day stuff, it's actually very, very difficult to get started. But that's why we pick one thing. And I'll ask them, especially if they're running around with their hair on fire and saying, hey, why don't you're a professional, right? Like it's taken you 7, 10, 15 years to gain the experience to go out and do what you do, right? Other professionals, accountants, bookkeepers, doctors, lawyers, CEOs, financial people, any professional that's taken 10 or 15 years, they have a schedule. Like they don't just run around and do stuff. You have to make an appointment with them. Why are you any different? Just because you're building a house for somebody. So what would be and we just pick something like, what would be the most convenient time for you to do a sales call, to go meet with the client? And if you can establish that, then when people call you up and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you about this project or whatever, you can just respond, great. We do our sales calls Tuesdays at 3 p.m. from 3 to 5. Is that convenient for you? Oh, no, I'm going to be at work or whatever. Okay, great. How about Friday morning at 8 a.m.? That's another slot that we have available. And it's this thing. I almost give them permission to be a professional. And I'm like, trust me, people will tell you, people will do what you tell them to do. So tell them, here's when you can make an appointment with us. And magically people will just do that because they see you as a professional. And so that's one of those first things that we start getting their life back is like, let's just manage your time and let's design a schedule that's most convenient for you. And then that boils down to other things like, hey, you got to do some paperwork. You got to run payroll. When would be the most convenient time for you? Because this is a priority. Like I know meeting with the subcontractors is important, but it's not as important as making payroll. So payroll has to come first. And so you got to set that aside because payroll always gets shoved off to the last thing in the morning or, early in the mornings or late at night. So that's kind of where we start is like time management. Then when you get your time back, then you can focus more. And in order to get your time back, you have to start saying no to some other things. That's the key to like delegation is like a lot of people say, oh, I want to be able to delegate. I want to be able to delegate. Well, delegating for the busy construction business owner means you got to start telling yourself no first. I know I can do this, but this doesn't add value to my company, to my clients, to my employees or whatever. Yeah, I know you're the fastest, you're the best, you're the whatever. You'll never unload that thing. You'll never be able to delegate that if you don't draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I've got to find a system, or I've got to find a person, like you were saying, like, hey, bringing your brother in. Like, I can do the spreadsheets. I don't enjoy them. I'm going to tell myself, no, it's going to cost me a little bit of money, but I got to hire somebody. But if I can give myself some freedom there, that's the part about giving their life back, getting their life back, is managing that time. And then it bleeds into everything else, like the way you sell and getting customers to tell you no, like, hey, like what you just described is a $250,000 project. Tell me no if you're not going to spend that. And it's cool, because I'll talk to the next person. Like, anybody that says they can do this for 200 or for less than 250 is just lying to you, or they're incompetent. So like, hearing no, that's the next way contractors can get their life. They don't want to hear no, but like, no is a very, very valuable word, because it gives you your life back.
Yeah. One thing that stuck with me is that when you say, yes to too many things, or when you say no to one thing, you're saying you have the ability to say yes to something else, right? But if you say yes to something, then you might not even have that other opportunity. And I found that so many opportunities come when you start saying no, because all of a sudden, like, one thing, for example, is like we've set the minimum cost for the type of project that we'll do, right? So you say, when you started doing that, all of a sudden these big projects start showing up. It's kind of funny how the universe works sometimes, but
yeah. Well, and that's why I say,
just changing your focus, right?
Yeah. On the business side, just from a purely business perspective, like most business owners, especially in the construction, and the smaller the company is, the worse it is like, they think no is a bad thing, right? But I'm like, when I'm evaluating our clients that we work with or whatever, that's one of the questions, like, okay, how much work are you getting? Like, how many no's are you hearing? Oh, we get 75-80% of all of the job. Okay, well, there's your problem right there. Like, you need to get some no's. One of the best ways to get some no's is to raise your prices, because you're not charging enough. The math doesn't work out, and you're not paying yourself. Like, that's going to help solve some of your money problems. But Shawn, if someone says no, then we won't get work. And I'm like, the work you're getting isn't producing profits, or it's just keeping you in this cycle. So no is the best thing. Like, you need to hear 7 no's for every 3 yeses. And that's the crazy thing. When I advertise this, or we put it in our marketing message about our academy and all this other kind of stuff, I'm like, it is possible to work less, do fewer jobs, and make more. But the only way that you do that, I mean, I know it sounds salesy, but it's true. The 3 people out of the 10 that do hire you are going to pay you, and you'll make more money off of them than the 7 that you're basically buying the jobs for. But one thing, you manage the time, hear the word no, learn how to sell, then the money starts to pile up, and you're like, oh, now I can afford, instead of affording a warm body to hire, I can actually spend money on the right person with the right qualifications that knows more than me, and bring them into my company. And whether it's a bookkeeper or a designer or a superintendent, lead carpenter, like, getting yourself out of the day-to-day grind is just part of a system that we take our clients through.
So how do you find those people, right? It's easy to say, oh, I need to go get this person, or I need that person, or I need help with this. But then, like, okay, I manage my time, I know who I need. Now, where do I go and get this person?
Yeah, well, they're most like, if you think about it, break it down. And I say this to business owners all the time, say, okay, like, who are we looking for? Somebody with some experience, right? Okay, that's always a plus, depending on the position. Let's just say it's somebody out in the field, somebody with some tools. So somebody with experience and tools, somebody with a driver's license. Okay, those are all really great things. And somebody that's like got good character and good work ethic and shows up on time. All of these things we just listed. Awesome. You know where they are? They're working for somebody else. Like, they have a job. So get out of your head that you're like looking for, or like looking to find this unemployed person. The person you just described, especially in this market, has a job. You're going to have to pull them away from their job. Now, I'm not talking about poaching people or whatever. I'm talking about getting out and saying, like, hey, we've got something better here than you've got at your job. And whatever that better thing is, like most people are working for bosses, and you've probably heard this, like people don't quit their jobs, they leave their managers, who's ever managing them, because they're busy, right? They don't have the information. Most people don't know exactly how they're being measured. They don't know what, like, where's my path to advancement or what's required of me? You know, they're just coming in. So if you can design a position that answers some of those questions, like, hey, here's your job, here's how we measure you, and here's what's going to come next when you perform this job and do it excellently. Look at all of these other things that you get. And whatever that is for your company, advertise the benefits. Most people advertise the job. Lead carpenter, need to have tools, whatever. That's not very enticing. And when you're trying to find people, or say the recruiting part of it, is you have to advertise to them. And that's why I say it's the same way that you would find your ideal customer. Like, you don't just go out there and just say, we are awesome, we build a great house, look at all the things that we do. That's not how, that may get you some clients, but your ideal clients want to know, when I give you money, when I hire you, what do I get? What's the experience I'm getting? That's how people buy anything. The same thing applies to this employee that you're looking. They're looking to say, if I come work for you, what do I get? The job description, the details, that comes later. Make it like an advert, like you're advertising to your next great employee, and tell them about the benefits they get. And I'm not talking traditional benefits. I mean, money's important, and health benefits or whatever that may be. But most people will make a lateral move, meaning they'll, the same money, if you relieve them of the chaos that they have to go into every day at work. And you say, you come work here, we're going to put you on a path to this, to management. Or do you want to lead and train a team of people? Do you want to take the next step in your career? We also have a really good culture. And I think it's very important for people to advertise what they do in the community as well. People will want to come and join your organization if they know that, like, you have a bigger mindset than just the company. Right. And that's what's going to attract people. And, oh, by the way, yeah, here's the job, superintendent, lead carpenter, here's all the requirements. And they're just going to be like, yeah, I want to do that job. That's fine.
Yeah, that's so true. It's definitely takes some time though. One of the things that we implemented here was like the rule of 3. So we don't hire anybody without interviewing at least 3 people for the position. They get interviewed by at least 3 people within our company in 3 different locations, and we check at least 3 references.
That's great.
And that's hasn't failed us yet, that I can remember anyways. But you know, sometimes people, I'm usually the last person to do the interview, and a lot of people just don't make it to me, right? Maybe they don't make it past the second person. But then the key to that too is that it has to be a hell yes for everyone. Obviously, if it's made it to me, it should be a hell yes for the 2 people before. Yeah. But then it's tricky for me. I'm kind of, you know, is it a hell yes or not, right? And obviously I have high expectations, so it might be a little bit different. But at that point, we can get together and kind of compare notes and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Have you always had that process from the beginning?
No, the process came from the fact that we were having internal issues 6 years ago or so, I think. And we had like cliques inside the company. Like, we grew and we had like 15 people, and, you know, we're getting to that point again now, but it was chaos, right? Because I wasn't organized. My brother wasn't with me at the time. I was kind of doing everything. I think we had a bookkeeper, but just people weren't getting along internally, right? So obviously we got enough problems to deal with in construction anyways, to have to also add internal problems. Like, what's the point, right? So that kind of thing sorted out. From that whole thing, I still have two people that are with us that are like top guys for us right now that have been with us since all of that. But we learn, right? And that's the biggest thing is like, I'm a carpenter by trade. They don't teach business in carpentry school, right? Just like you say, right? So I happen to enjoy the business side though. I guess that's the difference. And I'm okay. I am swinging the hammer on a job now for our YouTube channel, but I haven't been swinging the hammer for a long time, and I'm good with that because I like doing I like working on the business as opposed to in the business, right? And you know, it is fun to throw the pouch on every now and then.
Yeah, I eventually got to the point where I would even tell my clients, like, listen, if I'm out here with my tools on, one of two things is going on. Either something drastically has gone wrong, or things are going so smooth and I've got extra time. And but that that may happen. And so it was kind of a joking sort of thing. But like when I would show up after I would hand it off to a project manager or my subs that were running the jobs that day or that week or whatever, and then I would show up with my tools on, I'd be like, yep, I got to fix this. This is my bad. But there was some honesty there with the homeowners, because I kind of set them up, or like, hey, don't worry, nothing's wrong today. I'm just having fun being a carpenter. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to make sure that your invoices are correct if you're just goofing off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Now, one of the things that I know you've talked about before is pre-qualifying customers. Like you were talking about saying no before too. Like, how do you pre-qualify a customer?
Well, the short answer is like, you got to just get to the budget. Like, and I'm not saying like someone calls you up and says, hey, Casey, we've got this project. Okay. What's your budget? Like there's a sales process. And that's why I think that a lot of contractors are lacking their sales and marketing funnel to warm people up and to filter out, so that people you do end up on the phone with, they're already warmed up and educated to your process. But for a lot of busy contractors, they don't have that system in place. So you kind of have to do that through the sales or the phone conversation. And so what I say is like, just, hey, you got to verify who they are and how they heard about you. That's going to tell you like what's working in your marketing or what's not. And a lot of contractors say, we don't do any marketing, we do word of mouth or whatever. So if that customer calls you up and they've heard about you from Bill down at the lumber yard or whatever, and the person on the phone is not the kind of person that you need to talk to, you need to go take some coffee down to Bill at the lumber yard tomorrow and be like, Bill, by the way, quit telling people to call us. It's a waste of our time, but we start off there just verifying like, hey, how did you hear about us? And then, hey, tell me about your project. And then you get them to tell you about the project and let them go into as much detail as you possibly can in a few minutes or whatever, and ask them questions. And it's not about talking about how you can build a great project. It's about being empathetic with your customer, because they're calling you up because they have a problem, and they're calling you because they're never going to say it, but what they want to do is they want to give you money or buy their way out of the problem. Now, once we have that established, then I need to say, well, I need to figure out based on what they described. And if you have experience, for young guys and gals starting out, it takes a little while to develop that experience. But if someone's calling you up for one of your homes, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what they should spend in order to get the product that you guys stand behind, right? And once they've given you a description, my guess is you've got an idea in your mind of where that needs to land. We need to just have that conversation, because if we don't, about the money, if we don't, they're going to waste their time and you're going to waste your time. So I just say, hey, awesome. Thanks for telling me about this project. This is exactly what we do. We'd really, really be excited to work on this for you. But let me ask you a question. What's your budget for this? And let's just have that. Let's get that out of the way. And when people ask the budget question, this is where contractors get really nervous, and say, okay, well, what they're going to say, right? Like, so if I'm the contractor, you're the customer, and we have this conversation, and I say, oh, hey, well, Casey, this sounds awesome. This is exactly what we do. We're so happy that you called us. Like, let me just ask you, like, what's your budget for this?
I don't know.
Oh, no problem. So that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't know. Well, awesome. It's awesome that you called us, because you call a professional, and we hear that all the time. So we've got a process, we call it a pre-construction process, where we're going to walk you through developing your budget. And don't worry, and this gets into the details or whatever. It's not a construction contract. We're going to walk you through, and we're going to help you develop your budget. Now, in order to do that, we're going to meet 3 or 4 times, and this is how we're going to do it. And we're going to show you the things, some decisions you need to make, and we'll put together some sketches. And it's going to probably take us a couple of months to walk through the pre-construction process. But here's a benefit you get. Here's a benefit you get. Here's a benefit you get. And remember, before you said you were worried about this. That's why you ask them to, describe the project. So you have all that information to feed into that part of the conversation. When they say, well, we don't have a budget, then, okay, well, this is why we do the pre-construction stuff. How does that sound? Well, that sounds really great. Awesome. That's a professional service, and it typically costs between $5,000 and $10,000 to do that. And our best clients, that go through that process, and it makes everything wonderful. How's that sound? And your clients will be like, yeah, that makes sense, because they just admitted they don't have a budget.
Right.
So we can solve that problem for you by paying our professional services or hiring us to do these professional services. And then if, we'll figure out what your budget needs to be. Now, the other part of that, when people say, hey, Casey, great to talk to you. What are you going to spend on this? We don't have a budget. Oh, awesome. Well, based on what you described, it sounds like a $400,000 project, whatever. Then, so if I said that to you, oh, hey, great. Sounds like what you described is generally around a $400,000 project. Are you planning on investing that in the project? What's a customer going to say?
Yes or no. It's going to be one of those two things, right?
Yeah. If it's yes, good, we're off to the races. And we end up saying, well, let's get started with our pre-construction agreement. Let me tell you how that works, right? But if they say no, so remember, you said, hey, what's your budget? I don't know. Okay, sounds like a $400,000 project. And they say no, then you go, oh, no problem. How does $300,000 sound? Well, we're not going to spend that. Okay, well, how does 250 sound? Well, we talked to 3 other people and blah, blah, blah. And then you get all this other information. And I don't think it should cost any more than 220,000. Oh, and then you can say, oh, this is awesome, because 3 seconds ago, you had no idea what the budget was. Now we know it's not $300,000. And in fact, you actually do have a budget. Everybody has a budget.
Yeah.
They just don't want to tell you.
It's like buying a car, right? Or going on vacation. You have a budget. And you go out, you got to share it. That's the only way you can help as a contractor.
Yeah, hey, listen, you got a budget. I'm not offended that you didn't tell me. You're a little bit scared. So that's fine. We actually all of our customers start off there. And you might even work that in. I'd say that in the conversation all the time. Like, great, thanks for calling us. Now we got to talk about your budget, and I want you to sit down for this. And I would say this over the phone. Seriously, sit down for this, because I'm going to ask you what your budget is. And I already know that you're scared to tell me, because I'm just a crusty old contractor and you think I'm going to rip you off. Like, let's just get that out of the way. I'm going to tell you about a process that's going to blow your socks off. And we have lots of customers that enjoyed it, but it probably is not something you're familiar with. And it's okay. Just tell me, no, you don't want to tell me the budget, because I'm a professional and my whole team, we've done this for a long time. We can get you pretty close based on your description. There's a lot of details we don't have, but based on your description. So if you want to tell me the number, let's talk about that. But it's okay if you don't. I'm going to give you a number, but just trust me, I want you sitting down for it, because I promise my number is higher than you think. In fact, you should tell me your number and then I'll tell you mine, or I can tell you first or whatever. But like, let me just tell you, in the history of construction, going all the way back to the pyramids, no owner has ever had a budget too high for a contractor. Meaning, like, hey, we want to spend $1 million. Our budget is $1 million, and they describe a $200,000 project. Never happened. And it's probably not going to happen here. So your number's already probably too low, but let's just have a conversation about it. And then let me tell you about our process that I think will overcome a lot of the fears. And so we teach contractors how to script this out and just have a normal conversation with somebody. And when someone gets pissed off at you that says, wait a minute, I got to pay you money before you'll give me an estimate, or even come out here and be like, oh, no, we gave you an estimate. Remember, you said you didn't know what it was. We said it was 400,000. You said you didn't want to spend more than 220. The 400,000, that's our estimate. What you want us to do, to come out and to meet with you, that's a professional service. And we get paid for that. And that's how our process works. Like, I'm not offended if you don't want to do that process, but then you get into the education part. But let me warn you, like, what's going to happen, because if you call enough people, you will find someone to say they can do it for $200,000. Trust me, it can't be done. If someone says they're doing it for $200,000, they're either incompetent or they're ignorant. Now, it's not a good fit for us. And then you tell the customer no. A lot of power in walking away.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Another question that I've learned that actually helps is, like, in your research, how much have you found this is going to cost you? Right? Because then they're not like giving you a budget, right? Because nobody likes to really set a budget. Even it's like, I don't know. I hate setting a budget. Like, it's like a bad word, right? But if you do some research, then, that's actually how we've worded it on our website too, because it's a little more friendly way to actually get something out that's important, because that's ultimately something that we need to work around as a contractor. There's no way that we can design or work with you on a design if we don't know how much you want to spend, right? Are you looking for a Honda? Are you looking for a Ferrari sort of thing, right? So
Yeah, no, that's a great way. I love that. Like I've never thought about that. Like in your research, and so it personalizes it to them, and they can say, well, we haven't really done any research, but we have a budget in mind. Like, great, good. We can maybe help you with the, where to go get some more research or whatever. That's a great question.
Yeah. All right, I got a couple more questions for you before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Like, has the pandemic, COVID-19, has that affected you in any way, or has that changed how you work with businesses? Are you seeing anything that's really impactful on your end?
Well, it is interesting. I mean, in my work as a business coach, it's changed things a little bit in that I always say that my best clients that come through our academy and get the biggest results are the pissed off, frustrated, overwhelmed contractors that have a tendency, through a regular cycle of business, there's lulls, there's ups and downs. And during some of those downs, then they start looking around saying, man, the way that I've been running this business, we've been so busy, but there's no money. I know I need some systems, and I've got, we're in this lull, or maybe I'll finally take the time and invest and figure out some of these systems, or get some coaching or consulting, or, whatever. So those are the best clients for us. With COVID, it was kind of like, holy crap, it was everybody thought it was going to be like a forced lull or and it certainly was shut down for a lot of people. But then construction has been kind of this bright spot as essential work, and everybody is slammed, right? Mm-hmm. So we didn't see that lull, and construction business owners scratching their head saying, man, I know this has got to be the year I get some systems in place and invest in my business for the growth that we're seeing. So everybody was kind of like deer in the headlights, fear, and then bam, they were just slammed. And now with supply chain being interrupted, it's just backed up even more. And so it's been kind of crazy to see like contractors are already overwhelmed, and now they're super slammed. They're making they got a ton of work. So it's been interesting to kind of watch that. We haven't seen that kind of lull where a lot of contractors will come in and say, okay, it's finally time for some coaching. On the business side, on the construction business, on that side, we're as an industry, we're very slow to adopt new technology. So I have been training my clients for years, because this is how, I meet internationally and coach. I have some international clients as well, other than just the time zone thing. We meet over Zoom, and that's how you can do it. And I've been teaching my clients, you don't have to run out on site. You can set it up a Zoom meeting in that initial meeting, or have that, get off the phone, get face to face. There's nothing wrong with that. And they're like, no, you have to, we can't sell over virtual. We can't. What is Zoom? I've been teaching my clients to do this for 4 years. And now with the pandemic, it's this is normal operating procedure now.
Yeah.
Hey, let's set a Zoom meeting. Let's talk about your project. So that's been a really positive thing that's come out of all of that, is it's forced the construction industry to get up to speed with a lot of the technology that a lot of other people have been using in their businesses for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been, I love technology, right? So we were doing Zoom meetings before too, but obviously we do it now, but it's actually a forced reason to be more efficient too. It's sorry, just our new company policy, unless I absolutely have to go to site, we do phone calls and video calls. But if we have to go to site, because we got to measure, we got to see something in person, that's fine. But yeah, no, I agree. Efficiency is everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's end with your book, Profit First for Contractors, because you even kind of mentioned it, everybody's slammed right now, but just because they're slammed doesn't mean they're making money. So tell us about your book and how it can help all the contractors out there.
Yeah. So Profit First for Contractors. I didn't invent the system. My mentor and entrepreneur, Mike McAllowitz, wrote the book and developed the system Profit First. I went through his system and became a certified Profit First professional, as he calls it. And then I was teaching Profit First to my clients. And through a conversation I had with his team, I said, oh, there's some things in here that I would change so that it would apply specifically to contractors. You should, and this was me telling Mike, said, hey, you should write a book for contractors. He goes, I don't know the industry. You do. Why don't you write the book? And so that's how the book became a thing, is the author just, basically sold me the rights to do this. So what Profit First for Contractors is a cash management system. And it's very simple to implement. And it's more about behavioral science and establishing good habits with your cash than it is financial stuff. Now, the book goes into a deep dive into explaining your profit and loss statement and your balance sheet and markup and margin on all of this kind of stuff. But at its core, it says, hey, money comes into our business. All right. And the most important aspect of any business is profit. So we need to deal with profit first. So, for example, $1 comes into our business. We need to set something aside for profit. That's the reason we're in business. When you make a profit, then you also have to pay taxes on that profit. So that dollar that comes in, some percentage of it is your profit, some percentage is your tax. All right, now that we've got the most important thing dealt with in our business and we're paying the taxes on that most important thing, the next thing we need to take care of is the owner of the business. As we say, the most important employee. Most contractors, the business owner is the most important employee, but they are the most underpaid. And a lot of them are working for free or below minimum wage or whatever because they get paid last. Hey, listen, I hope you have some great people working for you, but you are the most important employee. Without you, the business doesn't exist. That's the reason you started it, was for you. So we got to take care of the owner or owners first. And so we got that set up. Now that we've got profit, we've got the tax, we've got the most important employee taken care of, then we just operate the business. And this is what our cash management system teaches, is like, if you don't, after you've taken care of those priorities in your business in that order, if you don't have enough money to operate your business, you don't steal it from those other accounts. You change the way you operate. You will never become a profitable business by stealing or borrowing money from those other areas. And so the simple system is, and people are going to hear this if they're not familiar with the book, like, you got to crunch some numbers, and we get into all the number crunching in the book, but you set up bank accounts. One bank account deals with all the money that comes into your business. And then from that bank account, you divvy up that money into those different accounts and you set percentages. 6% for profit, 4% for taxes, 10% for owner's compensation, and then 80% gets into operate the business. And now people, they start to confuse things because they start using terms similar to like what shows up on the profit and loss statement, cost of goods sold and expenses. And you got to realize this is a cash management system. It's not accounting. You still got to do the accounting, right? And you do the accounting with CPAs and bookkeepers and all of the financial laws of your country or state or whatever. But like, this is simple to say 100% of the money comes in, all of those other bank accounts that you're splitting that 100% up, it has to equal 100. If you spend more than 100% of your income, you're going to have problems. And so it's a simple system. And there's other parts of that system that we get into, is like twice a month, you drop in, you do what we call allocations, whatever money's coming in to the business, you split up into your different accounts, then you pay your bills, then you go about, your business. And people say, well, it can't be that simple. And bookkeepers and accountants hate it because they look at it and they're like, that's gimmicky. It's a trick. And I'm like, it's not accounting, it's cash management, and contractors get it because that's how you view your money anyway. Yeah. And what we say in the book,
cash is like the keys, like profit is the castle, right? But cash is like the keys to get into the castle.
Yeah. But again, the contractors out there that are listening to this, they know what it's like when they talk to their accountant or their bookkeeper and they say, oh yeah, look at the profit and loss statement. Look at that number there. You're profitable. And they go, what are you talking about? I'm looking at my bank account. That number on the bottom of that, I don't understand that because it's not in the bank account. Where's that money? And the CPA or the bookkeeper will say, well, it's just profit on paper. It doesn't actually exist. You're like, yeah, no crap, because I don't understand. So what happens is they ignore the financials. They ignore the profit and loss statement. And we look at the bank account and say, can I make payroll next week? Nope. I better go do something. To get some more money in, right? Or, wow, we got a big deposit in, or we're flush with cash. Guess what? I'm going to go buy some tools. I'm going to hire somebody, or whatever it is. And like, they exist off of the balance, but what they're seeing is the balance in one bank account. That's why we separate out the bank accounts and say your profits over here, your taxes over here. You're viewing the cash in the areas of your business. And people say, well, it can't be that simple. It is that simple. And that's why it's so effective. Like, it's not a trick. It's not a gimmick. It's actually based on how we behave all of the time. Like,
Yeah.
Contractors out there, check the bank balance. I got money. Good. I'll go spend it. I don't have money. I better cut back, or I need to figure out some more ways to get some more money. And so it's like, if you can figure out how to cut back and be frugal and innovate ways to get more money, and like, that's the way you need to operate every day.
Combination of the two. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why my brother and I he's like, all right, where can we cut, or what can we do to, be more efficient? And I'm just like, how can we go out and do more and be better? Right. So, yeah. So we work well, like we kind of butt heads sometimes, but there's that respect where it's like, no, this is what you stick to what you're good at, and I'll stick to what I'm good at, and work well together. Last question, actually, before I want to obviously share where people can get the book and your websites, and we didn't get into the Build Academy, but you can share that as well. But one question I want to end with: if you were to start a construction business today, what are the top 3 things you would do?
First thing, I would build a bomb-proof landing page that has, and not a website. I would build a landing page that captures emails so that I can follow up with them however I want to, whether they ever become a client or not. Like, that's number one. If people think about when COVID hit and everything shut down, it's, you probably got annoyed because every business you ever signed up for sent you an email and told you what they were doing about COVID, right? And it, like, you were like, oh, I don't care. But think about that as a construction business owner. If you had a way to capture those emails, you had that database, and then there's money to be made in an email list. I promise you. So that would be the first thing: bomb-proof landing page that's set up, connected to a CRM, that when someone signs up, they're going to get a series of emails or videos that warm them up and educate them to my process, so that when they end up on the phone, they are calling me up or doing that thing because they want what they've just been educated on. If people don't want what they've been educated on, they will opt out and they will never call in. And I'm totally happy with that, because I don't have to wait. I don't waste any time. So that would be number one. Number 2 is I would go out and find somebody to run all of the numbers. Now, I'm a financial guy. I'm pretty familiar with that, but that would be the second thing, is because I know I can find, through just networking, subcontractors, and again, I'm finding good people. I'm going to probably recruit the heck out of some people and bring them over to my company. But I want to get the help in the office on the admin side first. So that's number 2, so that I can work on growing the business. And then number 3 is probably invest in marketing. Like, develop a marketing message that I can just put on repeat that I know that works. And so that's not going to be sexy to a lot of contractors out there that are hearing that, but you get those things in place at the right marketing message, targeted in the right way to the right customers. When they see that, they end up at your landing page. They walk through that, and there's an automated process for them to buy at a premium price from me. Then I need the bookkeeper there to just handle all the money that we're going to make. That's so you get that system in place. It affords you to go do all of the other stuff that you want to do. Yeah.
I think the key there too is the right message to the right people, right? Because it's so easy to say, well, we can do this for everybody, right? But you really got to narrow down who your target is, because that's the only way that you can get your message out there properly. And I heard something recently that actually stuck with me, that I made sure I brought it to my team too, because we put a lot of effort into our marketing and our YouTube and all that. And I said, if we don't have haters, then we're not standing for something strong enough.
Yeah, right? That's good.
You need to have those haters, because when you have haters, you then have people standing with you too, right? But if everybody agrees with what you're doing, well, then there's a good chance that nobody's necessarily standing beside you, right? So, or trying to push that message or get it out there, right? Because it's not strong enough. So that's something that we're working on too. We're actually looking for haters. So
Yeah, no, hey, if you've been on YouTube for any amount of time, like, they're everywhere. Like,
yeah,
doesn't matter what you say. Some people, they live for that. But yeah, I like that. Is if you're forward thinking enough, then there's enough people that out there that aren't, and they like to hate. So that's a good metric to be like, hey, all right, let's celebrate some wins here with
troll
our
comments
haters.
did we get this week? All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So how do people, Shawn, this has been great. Ton of information. Like there's a ton of questions I didn't even get to that I know we can dig into, but obviously, and all the contractors that are here listening need to connect with you, need to see what you're up to. Share a little bit about the best way to get in touch with you as well as your academy.
Yeah, so they can just go to ShawnVanDyke.com. That's ShawnVanDyke, ShawnVanDyke.com, or you can search me on Google, and I should pop up on the first page there. And my website will give you all of the, like, our blogs and all of our resources, free resources for construction business owners. You can also go to ProfitFirstContractor.com. That's the website for my book, or you can buy the book on Amazon. And we've got some free video training series that will teach you the high level 4 core principles of Profit First for Contractors. So go to 4coreprinciples.com. I tell you, I got a bunch of, like I said, that's why landing pages, I got these all set up. And then they can, if you want to get in and you're like, yeah, I need some coaching, I need some systems. I won't get into all the details, but we have an online training academy that has online training, live group coaching, and also one-on-one mentoring. That is at builttobuildacademy.com. And depending on when you're hearing this, you can either join us in our open enrollment period, or you can apply for one of our programs. So we close open enrollment every few months so that we keep our students, our clients in line and kind of focused. But you can always apply for a program, and then you'll end up most likely on the phone with me or one of my team members, and we'll talk to you about, like, hey, what's the best fit and for which program. So all of that together, ShawnVanDyke.com, builttobuildacademy.com, or ProfitFirstContractor.com. My book's available on Amazon, and then I'm on IG, Instagram at Shawn Van Dyke, Profit First Contractor, and Built to Build Academy, all those places, and then YouTube and all of that stuff. Just plug in Shawn Van Dyke and you'll find all the stuff.
We'll share everything in the show notes. Shawn, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a world of information that I wish that I had when I started 10 years ago.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Casey. I really appreciate it.